What's up gamers, Cryptico here, and welcome back to Lowering the Mark, a show where I analyze the current and former world records of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe time trial runs to see how these records get faster over time. We'll look at elements such as the loadout, racing lines, and mushroom usage to better understand what's bringing these times down. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel and hit the notification bell to be the first to know when my videos go live. For today's episode, we're closing out both the Wii and Triforce Cup courses by taking a look at the faster version of this all-time classic, Wario's Gold Mine at 200cc. On May 1st, 2017, the world record for this run was set at 1 minute 28.965 seconds by the German player Kenzo. Jump ahead to a little over 4 months ago on May 20th, 2022, and we see the record now sits at 1 minute 24.998 seconds by the Spanish player Alberto. That's a 3.9 second difference between records and a 4.4% faster time. Our former world record holder Kenzo has broken 22 world records across 4 unique runs and has spent 135 days holding at least one world record. Our current world record holder Alberto has broken nearly 1,000 world records across 78 unique runs and is closing in on 1,600 days holding at least one of his 48 current world records. At pre-release, the world record for this run was a high 130 and it quickly made its way into the 127 to 26 range thanks to a smattering of players from all over the world. Now in October of 2017, Irish player Kevin set a time of 126.4 to take the record. Fast forward to February of 2018 when Doodle started taking the record down further, and whenever Jimmy stepped in, he answered right back all the way up until Jimmy stole the second break and went 125 for the first time. 450 days later, at the end of 2019, Tane beat that time by 2 1,000ths of a second, which prompted Jimmy to step back up and keep improving the world record. He'd do so with slight contesting from Army before eventually putting up this 125.49 that stood as the record for over 300 days. Now in December of 2020, Alberto stepped up and never looked back. 18 of the next 20 records came from him, and that long 500-day grind ended with possibly the final second break this course will see at 124. In total, the record was broken 75 times by 17 different players. These loadouts did not have the performance that I was expecting, and honestly, neither of them are a bad choice for this run. Kenzo goes with the combo of Dry Bowser whipping the W25 Silver Arrow with the slim tires and the Cloud Glider. Alberto rocks with Wario driving the Mach 8 with the Crimson Slims and the Gold Glider. Right off the bat, we notice that the performance stats are very closely matched in all areas. It's actually Alberto this time who holds the half-point advantage in top speed, and Kenzo with the edge in acceleration, handling, grip, and mini-turbo stats. Like I said, neither of these seem like a bad loadout, with the W25 one looking very appealing due to the stats, but ultimately, this world record comes down to one thing and one thing only: speed. And Alberto's got just enough of that to blow Kenzo out of the water. Wario's Gold Mine has always been a fan favorite, and the remake for 8 Deluxe certainly does it justice. Despite no viable gap jump opportunities, the track itself is still very well designed, and when racing at world record pace, it's oddly satisfying to watch a player whip through the course at 200cc. Let's watch Alberto and Kenzo take the wheel. Kenzo hits the rocket start and immediately bears right before grabbing this quick mini turbo before the drop. He then hits the zipper and comes back up drifting for another quick mini turbo. To close out S1, he'll chain a super mini turbo around the next turn. Alberto uses his first mushroom out of the gate before bearing right and grabbing this quick mini turbo on a tighter line before the drop. Once he comes back up, he'll chain a normal and super mini turbo through the next set of turns before the end of the section. Right at the start, we notice very similar approaches from both players, and we know Alberto comes out ahead because of that early mushroom, but we can't discredit his better line through the first part of the course. He's already up on Kenzo by just under a second going into S2. Staying on a straight line into the mine, Kenzo then chains these 2 quick mini turbos before the zipper ramp at the end of the first set of rails to close out S2. Alberto pretty much does the exact same thing, only with a different entry angle, and stays on a much more optimized line through those 2 mini turbos. Not much else you could really improve on here, but with that slight adjustment to his line, Alberto was still able to push his lead to over 1.1 seconds going into S3. Kenzo grabs a quick jump boost, and when he lands, he'll grab this quick mini turbo before using his first mushroom down this relative back straight, after which he'll chain a quick mini turbo before the second drop and closes out lap 1 by drifting from these coins all the way to the finish line. Alberto also gets the jump boost, but lands in a better spot for a tighter mini turbo followed by another mushroom into another mini turbo before getting this little floater through the next drop. As he comes up, he fits in this quick mini turbo before drifting from the coins all the way to the finish line. I hope you picked up that better lines is going to become a theme because Alberto certainly will be pushing that to the limit in order to stay on world record pace and eventually get that 124. Every single millisecond those tighter lines save play a huge role in the 1.7 second lead he holds over Kinzo after one lap. Into lap 2, both players carry that drift out for a super mini turbo before chaining that with a normal one before the drop. Once they both come out of it, they'll grab those same 2 mini turbos through the next set of turns to close out S1. Now that looked differently than lap 1, but it was the same approach by both racers, so where was the time save exactly? Well, in addition to those better lines, Alberto also built a larger lead thanks to that higher top speed that serves him really well through these long straight parts of the track. His lead now sits at just over 2 seconds at the end of S1. S2 is pretty similar for both racers as well. Upon entering the mine on a straight line from either angle, Kinzo and Alberto each chain 2 quick mini turbos before the zipper ramp at the end of those rails. Again, not much else to improve on here aside from hitting those turns on a much better line, which Alberto did, yet again, as he takes his lead to 2.2 seconds at the end of S2. After the jump boost, Kinzo lands in a much better spot for the tighter first turn where he'll grab a quick mini turbo. After which, he'll use his second mushroom to speed through the back half of the rails and grabs a quick mini turbo before the drop. Once he comes back up, he similarly drifts from the coins all the way to the finish line for the super mini turbo into the next lap. Alberto also tricks off the ramp before grabbing the first of 2 mini turbos through the rest of the rails, no mushroom this time. Unlike lap 1, Alberto just heads straight down the drop and then back up for this long drift around the final turn to close out the lap. Another world record lap made possible by the slightly faster loadout and better lines all throughout the mine from Alberto. Despite not using a mushroom this lap, his lead continued to grow and he's ahead of Kinzo by 2.4 seconds after outsplitting him by 0.7 of a second. Kinzo's lap 3 is pretty similar to his second lap. He collects this super mini turbo before chaining a normal one to that before the drop. Once he comes up, he'll chain the same normal and super mini turbos around the next set of turns before entering the mine. Shortly after, he chains 2 more mini turbos through the rails before the zipper ramp at the end. Once he lands from this jump boost, he'll grab a quick mini turbo, then use his final mushroom down this version of a back straight to grab another mini turbo. To close it out, he'll go down and up the drop one more time before drifting up to this ramp and tricking off of it to come flying across the finish line to close out the race. Alberto replicates most of his first lap with the addition of that early super mini turbo before the normal one around the first turn. After the drop, he comes up drifting for another normal and super mini turbo through the end of S1. Now in the mine on a strict line, he chains 2 tight mini turbos through the winding rails before grabbing a jump boost onto the lower rails. After which, he too grabs a mini turbo, uses this mushroom, but then chains 2 mini turbos after that through the drop. To close out the race, he'll similarly drift up to the ramp but just rides off of it to cross the finish line. His final time would end up being just a hair under 4 seconds faster than Kinzo's former world record. So by staying on a better line and driving a faster kart, Alberto was finally able to dip under the 125 time he had been bound to since late 2020. We know it wasn't part of the 15 consecutive records that set this up, but being able to step back up and claim the second break before Grace did was no doubt a very big achievement for Alberto. Now that we're here, is this record maxed, or could we possibly go a little further down into the 124 range? The best known splits for this run show that a high .9 actually isn't this record's true limit. Grace and Alberto share a bit of the best known sum time, and it's obvious as to where the most time can be knocked off here. Alberto's second and third world record laps are within 1 frame of being the best known splits, while Grace's lap 1 is over a 1/10 faster than Alberto's world record lap 1. If he wants to bring the record down further, he'll have to go that much faster from a flat start. He may not have started strong in his world record, but he was the one able to string together 3 laps at world record pace for the elusive 124. Will it be him to go even further down, or will someone else swoop in for the theoretical .8? The worldwide top 10 consists of 6 national and 3 continental record holders. Alberto sits at the top with the only 124 in the world, American record holder Grace is just frames away from him in second, and Asian record holder Storb rounds out the top 3. Closely together at the 4 and 5 spots is Army and Tane, and sharing similar separation down there at 6 and 7 is Pi and Jimmy. Rounding out the top 10, separated by just 0.5 of a second, is Beta, Eternal X, and Mookie. Fun fact, the separation between 3rd and 10th place is still less than the separation both Alberto and Grace have over the rest of this field. To lead everyone else by multiple tenths of a second like that is quite uncommon, and it speaks to how good both these players are at this course. I don't doubt Grace isn't going for 124, which will likely result in either a tie or a new world record, but I also wouldn't count out Alberto attempting to improve it himself to stay at the top. It's really anyone's guess right now. That's all for episode 89. Hope you found it interesting. We've now capped off the Triforce Cup and are entering the final 5 episodes of Lowering the Mark. Be sure to stay tuned for these final few episodes and the finale everyone has been waiting for. If you enjoyed this video, like and share it with your friends, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.